video deals with the Week 11 assignment on how to make a podcast using Audacity. So getting started, I've gone ahead and loaded the 3 tracks I'm going to need to make this podcast. But if you've noticed, I can't see them all. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come up to View, and I'm going to select Fit Vertically so I can see all 3 tracks on my screen. Now what tracks do I have? I have the track of the music that I'm going to play. It's a piece of music that I like. I also have a track that I'm going to use for my intro music. Now these are all stereo tracks, so there's actually 2 tracks for them. And then there's the music I'm going to use for my outro music. So to get started, if I hit play, all 3 tracks would play at the same time. So I'm going to take and drag over the 2 tracks that I don't need right now. And I'm going to edit down my intro music. Now, if I were to scroll all the way out, you'd see that the track that I selected is really about 5 minutes long, and that's way too long for intro music. We really need something around 10 seconds long. So I'm going to select just what I want, and come up to Edit, and I can hit Trim, or you could do on the keyboard Control-T, and that's going to delete everything except what I selected. Now, I would like this to gradually fade out when I start talking, so I'm going to come up to Effect and hit Fade Out. I'm going to go do the same thing for my outro music, or the music that's going to play at the end, except I'm going to select Fade In so it gradually fades in at the end of the podcast. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to record my voice and explain to the listeners of this podcast, which really I'm going to be the only listener of this podcast, but you would want to tell me what I'm listening for. Why do you like the song? What's something special about it? So to do that, of course, I need a microphone that works, and I'm going to come up and hit record to record my voice. There's one other thing I may want to do first. If I want to listen to my intro music to hear when to start talking, I could come up to Edit, Preferences, and then select, and I already have it selected, to play other tracks while recording a new one. You'll probably want to wear headphones while you're doing this, otherwise you're going to pick up the sound that's coming out of your speakers, and you're not going to get the greatest quality audio track. Now for the audio I'm creating, you'll hear what comes out of my speakers, so it won't be the greatest. Now, I know that I don't need to listen to the first little bit of my intro, so I'm going to go ahead and select just right in the middle of it, and that's actually where I'm going to start recording. So in my recording, I'm going to give you a few facts about the piece and tell you what you're listening to. Welcome to Ms. Winchell's introductory podcast on how to make a podcast. In this podcast, we're going to listen to a piece of music by Ladysmith Black Mambazo, which is a group from South Africa. They're a group that's been around for about 40 years, and they've recorded with famous artists such as Paul Simon. They've created a whole lot of CDs, and they sing a cappella, which means they don't have any instruments in what they're singing. The song that we're going to listen to today is called Rain, 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 and I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay, so that was all I wanted to say, but now the next thing is I need to have my audio in there. And if I were to hit play, there would actually be a big gap in the sound. So I can do this one of 2 ways. I think the easiest way for me anyway, and maybe you'll find a way different, is to take and drag over my audio. And I can see that I stopped talking at about, what would that be? About 30 or about 40 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and drag over so the beginning of my piece lines up with that. You could also cut and paste your audio track that you recorded and paste it in at the beginning of the piece of music that you're going to play. Now you can also do the same thing with your outro music, but maybe you want to say something at the end. I've found the easiest way is to just go ahead and record a separate audio track. You end up with a lot of tracks that way. You can always go up to View and hit Fit Vertically so you can see all of them. So if I recorded another audio track, I would want it to start just right at the end of the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Thank you for listening to the song. I hope you really enjoyed it, and thank you very much for listening to this podcast. Okay, so now I need to also drag over my outro music so that will play correctly at the end, because what I don't want are a bunch of big holes in my podcast. Now, of course, I don't want to take the time in this video to make you go through and listen to my whole podcast again, but you would go back and play through everything. If there's any big holes, you're going to adjust your audio tracks correctly. If you don't like the way your voice sounds, you can re-record that. You can edit your music differently. The biggest thing is just to make sure that you like the way your podcast sounds. When you're done, go up to File and click Export as WAV, and it's going to mix it down. That's okay.